over here.
This is a disability question. This is what I've heard, that I'm on disability right now. But I hear that when I turn 65, I automatically go to retirement. Is that true or not?
Yes, Social Security will give you the amount that's highest that you're entitled to, and it'll just be switched from one department to another.
Oh, okay.
So the amount is going to be seamless for you. The transition will be seamless, and you'll still receive the same amount or a little higher.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
See, I thought it would go, because my retirement would be a little bit less. But, well, you never know. In 15 years from now, maybe it would go up. But we never know.
Okay.
That answers my question.
Okay, you're welcome.
Yes, this question is for the attorney. My question is two-part. First, as of applying to Social Security, they send you to be evaluated by their own doctor, who's a non-MS specialist. So why do they send me to someone to evaluate me if they're not even aware of MS?
That's part one.
In addition to you answering, maybe the physicians could answer this as well.
Okay, so you had a two-part question? Okay.
And the second question, since this has been going on for the past 10 months, if I feel that I need to get an attorney because I came from the federal system, is it better for me to go through an attorney to get my case processed? Because right now I'm using my senator and my congressman.
Okay, so part one is everybody, when you apply for disability, you have the burden to prove you're disabled, but the government has the ability to examine you. They send you to the doctors that are available and that are within their budget, and they don't have to send you to an MS specialist. You have to, however, comply and go. Even if they were to send you to a doctor for an impairment you really don't have, you have to at least still go through the motions of cooperating with them and letting them examine you and render their opinion. That's where your part of your question comes in. If you have an attorney and they're sending you to a doctor that will be examining you for, if they're sending you to a cardiologist, for example, and you don't have any heart problems, an attorney or somebody on your behalf would be able to work with Social Security in conjunction so that they can change that appointment from a cardiologist to a doctor that perhaps will not be a neurologist specifically to MS, maybe a neurologist or maybe an internist, but to a doctor who is more apt to evaluate you and render a medical opinion. With regard to an attorney, obviously this is what I do for a living, and we take clients at any stage. It depends on whether you're applying for benefits, thinking of applying, or whether you've applied and gotten denied. My advice is to urge anybody who is going through Social Security benefits to speak to an expert in that area, somebody who is not a congressman or a government employee who deals with many different issues, not an attorney that deals with many types of law, but to deal with an attorney who is specialized in the area that you need advice in, because it changes dramatically. Right now we're going through an election year. We're having a lot of changes with regard to procedure, length, how long things are taking internally. So it's only your case and you're interested in resolving your case timely, I would suggest you find an expert.
I would like to know what's with the attorney. I was diagnosed in 1997, my second year of law school, and I didn't really get my disability payments until 2004 or something like that. So how can I get all my money from when I was first diagnosed with MS in Pennsylvania and Philadelphia? Is there anything I can do for that?
No, it's been too long. But like I said before, having a diagnosis doesn't necessarily equal being disabled. So there are plenty of people that still have MS that are functional and are capable or willing to work, and they're able to sustain some type of work. So it doesn't always go back to the date that you were diagnosed. It goes back to the date that you were not able to work on a 40-hour work week, which is called substantially gainful work.
A question here?
This is for the Social Security attorney. While on your disability, can you work? And if yes, how much can you earn?
Okay, that seems to be one of the most popular questions that I get asked. You can work while on Social Security disability. There is a limit, and every year the limit changes. I believe this year it's the same as last because of the change that the governments are making, and I think it's about $1,780 or $1,800 per month. However, anytime you do any kind of work while receiving Social Security disability, you are sending a very strong red flag up. And you are subject to review because all of a sudden you went from not working to working. So then you open a lot of trap doors to see whether or not your work is artificially low, your hours are artificially low, your pay is artificially low. You're opening the door to whether or not your condition has improved, and maybe you can actually work a little bit more or in another industry that may not be as strenuous. So the cycle that goes on, it seems that once you are on disability benefits, you start feeling a little less stressed. You're able to rest a little bit more. You're more proactive with your medications and with your exercise and your intake of food. And that results in you feeling better and having more energy and not being as lethargic. And then you end up wanting to go back to work, which was the same thing that you were trying to get help for because you were not able to. So my suggestion is always, if you want to go back to work and you're feeling better, to go back on a basis of volunteering only a few hours a week, keeping it as low as 5 to 8 hours a week, seeing how you're doing, seeing if you're able to consistently do that, and do it without reporting income initially so that you're not sending those red flags. And if you start reporting income, like Dr. Steingo said about applying and being prepared, educate yourself with your specific circumstances and be prepared before you start paying Social Security taxes. With that said, there is a trial work period, which is a lifetime. You are allowed 9 months of a trial work period. In that case, it doesn't matter how much money you receive, but in cases where you look at the trial work period, it has to do with cases that are not progressive illnesses such as MS. So I do not suggest you go that route.
Next question's over here.
A question over here?
If I'm receiving Social Security right now and I decide I'm feel good enough to go back to work, do I have to pay the government back the money that they gave me?
No, not if at that time you were not working. So if there's fraud or a mistake in receiving benefits that you weren't entitled to and you cash them, then yes, but not if you were disabled for the period of time you were entitled to it.
This question is for Lisa again. How does someone not work for 12 months? Can they get SSI?
Okay, so the short answer is yes. There's a couple different programs that Social Security has. There's Social Security disability income based on your earnings and the quarters of coverage and the pay that you've done into the system. And then there's supplemental security income, which is SSI. People use them intermittently, but they're very different programs. So both of them require you not working for 12 months or more, but they also have other fiscal requirements. So one is based on work activity that you've paid into the system, FICA, and quarters of coverage, and one is welfare-based. So, but both of them require the 12 months.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Jennifer?
This question is for Lisa. I receive disability and my own private insurance through my previous employer. Who decides when Medicare becomes primary insurance and my other insurance is secondary?
Okay, so not all long-term policies continue when you get on Medicare. So it depends on the particular insurance that you have with the employer that you had. But in general, unless it is stated otherwise in the contract, you are entitled to receive your Medicare 29 months after you become disabled. And that becomes your primary insurance. And then the long-term disability can kick in the other 20% that Medicare does not. That is normally the way that it operates. Contractually, it's very independent.
Okay, in my situation, I stopped working in 2007, and they changed Medicare to primary last year. So all the funds that were paid by my other insurance were retracted.
Wow.
So is this a mistake of calculating when?
No, it doesn't sound like it's a mistake. It sounds like it may be a change of policy. I'll be happy to look at the actual contract and go through it and review it and maybe give you some advice. But like I said, they're all very independent. They're based on the employer. So that's something that you have to read and see what the terms of your contract with your previous employer was about your insurance. Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good afternoon. I have a question. Currently, I'm on disability, but I'm also going to school as well, and I'm working part-time. But now I'm starting experiencing problems with my hand. What should I do? Speak to my doctor in reference to continue what I'm doing, or what direction should I go from here?
Well, that's a two-part question again. Going to school, how many hours are you going to school?
I'm going to school 15 hours.
And how many hours are you working part-time?
About 10.
Okay, so the 15 hours that you're going to school, as well as the 10 that you're working part-time, would equal 25 hours worth of work. Whether it was school or for money, that's how the government would evaluate it. Like I said before to the other gentleman, when you are working and you have MS and you're pushing yourself, sometimes it can be very helpful for your self-esteem, and it can actually increase and stimulate you and make you feel better. But sometimes it can increase fatigue and it can create other problems. So I would send the question over to the doctors with regard to how much you may be doing, because you don't want to put yourself in a situation where you're going to be worse. But anytime you are working, you're raising that red flag.
Okay, currently I'm not working right. I'm working, but I'm not working as much as before because the season. I was working at the Sun Life Stadium, and the season is over right now. I'm just going to school only right now. Should I just fall back or not try as much, not to get in conflict with the government?
I would direct that question to your doctors as per how you are doing what you're doing and whether or not your condition is remaining the same, improving, or getting worse. And if you're decompensating or having other problems, I would focus on communication with your doctor.
Question over here.
This is for Lisa. Does it make a difference when you apply for disability after you apply for Social Security early retirement? Because that's what I'm planning to do. Retire now at 62, and then after that, apply for disability.
Okay, so the question is, if you're in the window between early retirement age of 62 to 65 and you want to retire so you can collect benefits in 80% based on your retirement, and then apply for Social Security disability. You're absolutely within that right to do it. You may still be denied, you may still have to go through the process, but the benefits would be the Medicare and the difference of 20% for your lifetime. So I would advise to do that.
Because I have a great concern. I'm gonna have to pay about $600 insurance for, not working full time. And I don't know how long I'll be able to be on Gilenia, because Gilenia, it's right now $7,000 a month. This is ridiculous.
It is. With regard to Social Security, the Medicare won't start until 29 months after you've become disabled. So if you're working and you wait till you're 62 to retire, you still have to wait those 29 months for Medicare. So with regard to the medication, I'll pass that over to the doctors if they have any suggestions. But with regard to your benefits, that would be the answer. But yes, you would qualify.
All right, for the attorney, if we did want to use your services, when I was out there, I didn't receive. Is there any information you can provide if we did intend to use your services?
Yes, absolutely. See me after the program.
Thank you.
Questions? Who's up? So all these hands go up. I can't remember.
Excuse me. This is for Mrs. Gonzalez or Miss Gonzalez.
Yes.
Hi, I have a question. Not that you should know everything, but with this next year being an election year, what is your forecast on what the changes are going to be with Social Security or with Medicare, being that you've been through other election years?
So I think that when there's an election year, what I watch out with is whether or not we're going to furlough, whether or not the government's going to shut down. I think of slower processing in delays with respect to payments. So people that have been awarded benefits right now, there are many people that are waiting to receive their big retroactive check, and I think that's a way the government uses just to hold the monies in reserve, but they're entitled to the money. So it's just a slower process. They're also, the quicker processes are seen on denials. So the government is processing cases and denying cases quicker, but on approval rates for disability, they're a little slower right now.
But if you're already disabled, you've already been disabled for years, can this affect your income? Can this affect your benefits of receiving or having Medicare paid for your medicines, et cetera?
No, right now that's not something that's happening in an election year. Maybe after the election, a year after an election, 12 to 16, 18 months, you may see a higher period of reviews. So people that are currently on benefits may experience, as a group, as a whole, more phone calls or letters from Social Security asking them for information. Provide me with your doctor, your address, their address, treatment, what kind of improvement have you seen, to see whether or not they will review you to see whether or not you're still disabled. But that won't be really till 12 to 14 to 16 months after an election year. You're welcome.
This question's for Lisa. I was denied disability, and now I've applied for a hearing, but I'm told the average wait time is about 15 months. Is there anything that could be done to shorten that wait time?
That's in Fort Lauderdale. Yes, that is the average wait time. The only way that you can expedite or request an expedited hearing is if you fall under a compassionate allowance for MS, and in those cases you would have to have a lot of documentation from your medical doctors with objective records, and if they help you obtain all that, you can try to go kind of behind and not ask for a hearing, just ask for an award. But mostly the only cases that are viewed as expedited are cases where you're about to lose your home or about to lose your life. MS has a special category as a compassionate allowance that if your MS is severe and exacerbated enough, you can try to write a brief and get behind the door that way. But I will tell you right now, the denials are, the delays are very, very, very high. We are working right now on our firm for 2 compassionate allowances, and we're having a hard time getting through that door. So that's the average wait time. The ways that you can speed them up again are if you're about to lose your home or about to lose your life. In those cases, you can push. But we did have 5 deaths in August waiting for hearings, and we had 1 death last month waiting for hearings. So the situation's very dire, very dire.
Actually, I would like for you to help me understand this. The hearings are given after the person have been denied 3 times? Is that the way it is?
Twice.
Oh.
So you have your initial application, you get denied, you file a reconsideration, and if you get denied, you request a hearing before an administrative law judge. And those right now, just getting that hearing, are taking anywhere between 8 to 16 to 18 months.
What about for hardship cases? What do they do for people with hardship? Financial.
You're still waiting. You're still waiting. You can do hardship cases at lower levels, at the initial level, at the reconsideration level, and the time period that I'm saying for waiting for a hearing is very geographical. So in this area, that's how long it's taking. In other states and other counties, they may be quicker. There are programs in place. So we have people from the National Hearing Office in Baltimore taking hearings in Baltimore for local people to try to have these people have their hearings quicker, but the delays are still there.
I have a question here.
This question's for Lisa. I was denied disability, and now I've applied for a hearing, but I'm told the average wait time is about 15 months. Is there anything that could be done to shorten that wait time?
That's in Fort Lauderdale? Yes, that is the average wait time. The only way that you can expedite or request an expedited hearing is if you fall under a compassionate allowance for MS. And in those cases, you would have to have a lot of documentation from your medical doctors with objective records. And if they help you obtain all that, you can try to go kind of behind and not ask for a hearing, just ask for an award. But mostly the only cases that are viewed as expedited are cases where you're about to lose your home or about to lose your life. MS has a special category as a compassionate allowance that if your MS is severe and exacerbated enough, you can try to write a brief and get behind the door that way. But I will tell you right now, the denials are, the delays are very, very, very high. We are working right now on our firm for 2 compassionate allowances, and we're having a hard time getting through that door. So that's the average wait time. The ways that you can speed them up again are if you're about to lose your home or about to lose your life. In those cases, you can push. But we did have 5 deaths in August waiting for hearings, and we had 1 death last month waiting for hearings. So the situation is very dire, very dire.
Actually, I would like for you to help me understand this. The hearings are given after the person have been denied 3 times? Is that the way it is?
Twice. So you have your initial application, you get denied, you file a reconsideration, And if you get denied, you request a hearing before an administrative law judge. And those right now, just getting that hearing, are taking anywhere between 8 to 16 to 18 months.
What about for hardship cases? What do they do for people with hardship? Financial.
You're still waiting. You're still waiting. You can do hardship cases at lower levels, at the initial level, at the reconsideration level, and the time period that I'm saying for waiting for a hearing is very geographical. So in this area, that's how long it's taking. In other states and other counties, they may be quicker. There are programs in place, so we have people from the National Hearing Office in Baltimore taking hearings in Baltimore for local people to try to have these people have their hearings quicker, but the delays are still there.
I have a question here.
Okay.
Any other questions? Somebody's got to. Okay, I have one to ask Lisa. All right, I've heard you say this in the past about people filling out the applications that for disability, and they themselves maybe should not fill out the application for disability. Can you tell them why?
Yes, Social Security will even assist you in completing these applications. And the applications, when you fill them out, you end up writing about how you feel at that moment. And a lot of times we try to amp the kind of work that we did, and our previous work is described a little more detailed. And you put an application where you are putting all these hopes in, you end up hurting yourself, because what you put in the application stays with you throughout the course of your lifetime, actually, especially even if you win your case or you lose your case, it is always recorded, and it can be used against you in terms of the past relevant work that you did, or how you describe your activities of daily living, or how you're responding to medication. So I would always suggest to get an impartial person to help you, and again, experience counts a lot. If you ask Social Security to help you complete the application, be aware that there's a little box where they observe you, and they write down how you appear when you walk into the office, how you work, how you walk, how you look, how you dress, and that's really a free box for them to objectify their observations. If it's done over the phone, they also talk about how you have an ability to remember and respond to simple questions, how you sound. So that can end up backfiring at a time of a hearing for the particular individual.